Well, wasn't that just so dang heartwarming? Sam Elliott as the tough but honest cowboy trying to have sex with Catherine Ross. And whatever happened to Catherine Ross, anyway? But you know what could be even more heartwarming than that story? Stick around for Monstervision tonight, because we have the classic Motel Hell with Rory Calhoun as a good-natured cannibal who likes to turn tourists into roadkill on the highways and then grind them up and sell them as sausage souvenirs. And helping us navigate through the subtle cinematic themes of tonight's movie is Dr. Vale Reese, a dermatologist and expert on the effects of cannibalism on the human complexion. Dr. Reese actually does a website called Skinema, combining the arts of film and skincare. I'm not kidding, and it's all part of Joe Bob's Summer School, our 10-week special session for remedial couch potatoes. And for those who are taking the full 21-film course, we have Return of the Living Dead Part 2 as our second feature. The zombies rise again, and this time the brain eating is personal. You know, the movie we just watched was written by Louis L'Amour, right? Who probably wrote more Western novels than anybody except Zane Grey, maybe. And I always thought that if Louis L'Amour had lived just one more year, he would have put a zombie into one of his stories. You know, a zombie or a cannibal. Just one of those Western themes he never quite got around to. But we're making up for that on Monstervision. So join us tonight and imagine how it would be if Louis was in the cannibal saddle, okay? Louis' stories are always stirring, right? In Motel Hell, the only stirring takes place in a big cooking pot. Got it? Good.
See Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs next on TNT.
Well, here we are, week 9 of Joe Bob's Summer School, proving that if you really apply yourself to your studies, you can help us run this joke totally into the ground. And tonight is Acne Night, featuring 2 classics of terrible facial hygiene, Motel Hell and Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And my special guest lecturer for the evening will be Dr. Vale Reese, who is both a professional dermatologist and an expert on the human skin as depicted in the cinema, hence his popular website, Skinema. All right, looky here. This is your skin. Kind of disgusting, isn't it? The human skin is the largest organ of the body, averaging about 20 square feet in size if you were to skin a man alive and turn him into a living room carpet. Just about enough for your average condo living den. It's only 17 square feet in a woman. Actually, it's 14 square feet before marriage and 27 square feet after marriage, but it averages out to about 17. The skin consists of 2 layers, the epidermis here and the dermis. Now, you see how tiny this epidermis is right here? That's all that separates you from looking like Paul Newman, Claudia Schiffer, or, if you want to think of it another way, protects you from looking like the Elephant Man. So, what is this made up of? Class? Cells. Living cells, dead cells, battery cells, jail cells, and they're all attached to one another by plaques or desmosomes. And these are little zippers that hold the cells together, allowing expensive moisturizers to seep between the cracks, and also allowing really bad BO to seep out and permeate the air. These cells are always multiplying like crazy down here at the dermis level, and then gradually ascending to the surface, like Jacques Cousteau in a diving helmet. And then when they get up here, they die, and they become what we think of as the skin, but is actually only the horny layer of the skin. Why is it called the horny layer? Because we like to rub it. Okay, now, all the rest of your skin action is down here in the dermis or the basement area. We have 2 types of blood. We have your venous blood, and we have your arterial blood, all pumping into the bottom of this hair. And one hair by itself, see this? It's kind of gross looking, don't you think? Yeah. You ever been kissing a girl and one of those, never mind. Yeah. Anyhow, that brings us to the sebaceous glands, right over here. What are these little boogers for? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Scientists think that maybe they don't have any use at all. All we know is that they secrete stuff. You know, fat, cholesterol, wax, and it all comes up to the surface in the form of gooey, oozing whatchamacallit. But where do most of the sebaceous glands live? Lips, cheeks, gums, tongue, the wang doodle on the male, the Minnehaha on the female. I think I can tell you what's going on here. Yeah. You know, This is how we're able to sniff each other, I'm saying. Not to get too technical here, but this is the very substance that reveals to us whether she's a frigid lesbo or a University of Arkansas co-ed, if you know what I mean, and I think you do, because some girls are just naturally sebaceous. All right, now, what happens when you stick your nose into a little frisky musk? The sweat gland. The sweat gland here, it takes over. You get sweaty. First your palms get sweaty, and then your back gets sweaty, and then the two of you are flinging sweat all over the epidermis proper, which leaves us with what? Only one thing. The erector pili muscle. Yeah. Right here. It's erect, it's a muscle, it's pili. The very hairs on your body are getting ready to party as the erector pili sends the dermis into a series of sebaceous eruptions that cause the epidermis to do the three-legged mambo. Or you can just use Jade East. But either way, is that clear? Did you follow this? Good, because we're going to watch Motel Hell now, one of the strangest horror comedies ever made, starring Rory Calhoun as the owner of this little rundown motel that's part of his farm where he sells homemade sausage and beef jerky. And I don't want to say anything else about it, because if you hadn't seen it, you're not going to know what's coming next, so I'll just give you those drive-in totals. 10 dead bodies, 3 motor vehicle chases, S&M, B&D, LMNOP, flesh-eating, dueling chainsaws, strangulation, gratuitous Wolfman Jack, and a special award for best performance by a man wearing a pig head. 4 stars. Check it out, and we'll have Dr. Reese here to talk about skin problems in this and other movies as we go along. Roll it.
Back to Monstervision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Motel Hell on TNT.
Rory Calhoun is such a goofball in this picture. I think that's what makes the whole thing work, because Motel Hell has that comic book thing going for it, where everybody's just a little bit larger than life, including Nina Axelrod as the bimbo Terry, who decides it's not that strange that they buried her boyfriend before she woke up. You know, it's probably the Lord's work that she's staying in Farmer Vincent's house. But I'd like to welcome Dr. Vale Reese now. Dr. Reese is a dermatologist from out in San Francisco who runs a website called Skinema, short for Skin in the Cinema. Is that right?
That's right.
Well, welcome to Monstervision, Doctor.
Great to be part of the curriculum today.
Was I pretty accurate in my lecture earlier?
I was very impressed. It took me back to kind of nightmares and visions of medical school, but very good, very good.
Was there one skin condition that started it all, inspiring you to do the Skinema website?
Actually, W.C. Fields, with his adult acne and the big bulbous nose.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
We all think it's because he was, like, you know,
the hooch could exacerbate it, but it really is a type of adult acne, and a lot of dermatologists use that example to teach patients, and it got me thinking, well, what else can we use from movies?
Did he have actual, like, was it a bunch of pimples on his nose? Is that what made it big and red? Because I never saw any actual pimples on W.C. Fields.
It's pimples plus a lot of flushing developing over time. Yeah. Yeah.
Swollen, red, rash-like.
Acne rosacea, it's really common.
Okay. But they're better diseases than that, because I've seen Skinema.
Oh, there's a lot on there. That's just the start. Oh, sure. Oh, sure.
Okay, well, the only thing we've got so far in Motel Hell is a bruise on this bimbo's face. Is there a fancy Latin name for a bruise?
There is. It's ecchymosis.
Uh-huh.
Ecchymosis.
And that's it?
I'm afraid so.
Okay. I wish we had a more skin-oriented movie for tonight, but leave it up to the crack TNT programming department to flake out on me. So anyway, let's get back to the great Motel Hell. Here's where it gets weird. Go. And speaking of skin in San Francisco, actually, I had a one-man show, and I used to do it down in the Tenderloin district. Did you ever get down there?
I drive through it occasionally, drive as quickly as possible.
Well,
yes.
There's a theater right next to the Mitchell Brothers Theater called the Great American Music Hall, where I used to perform. But the Mitchell Brothers, now those people know their skin.
There is skin there on display, that's correct. So I've heard,
Okay, welcome to Dallas. Chocolate-covered potato chips?
I haven't tried them yet.
We love those here.
Excellent.
Back to Monstervision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Motel Hell on TNT.
A vegetable garden, literally. They planted that metal band, didn't they? And were you watching closely? Did you notice the drummer in the band? It's Cliff the Postman from Cheers, John Ratzenberger. There he is, planted like a rutabaga in Ida's garden, because It takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent's fritters. I don't suppose you have any idea what human flesh tastes like, Doctor?
I can't say that I do.
Would you have any theories based on your extensive medical...
People tell me it's something like chicken.
Yeah, well, they say that about everything. Okay, let's talk about one of my favorite skin-challenged characters.
Yes.
By the way, we're still talking with Dr. Vale Reese, who runs the Skinema website. What is that? www.skinema.com, right?
That's right, that's right.
Okay. This is one of my favorite characters, Freddy Krueger. I know he was modeled after burn victims. Is he realistic?
Yeah, actually, they did a very good job with the burn scars in his case. They're really extensive, and I think if someone was burned that badly, they probably would die, which I think in his case was the case.
He did die, but then he came back. Could he be treated for this scarring?
That would take some pretty extensive skin grafting, and you'd want to get rid of the finger knives, too. That'd be an important part of it.
Well, I think part of the theory of Freddy is that because of things that are going on psychologically and morally and everything, it makes his skin worse. Is that true? Does our brain affect what happens to our skin?
Well, stress can really make a lot of skin rashes worse, but most people with scarring are not evil or morally bad, and that's one of the points of my website.
It is?
It is.
Oh, we hate that in horror movies. See, we need that. We need to believe that. Okay, so after getting rid of the Lee press-on knives, you know, you're saying you can always try to grow skin in these cases, right?
Yeah, and you can graft skin from different areas of the body to cover areas that have been burned. Now, again, in his case, I don't think that there was much left to graft, but it is possible to do.
You couldn't, take skin from Jason and put it on Freddy.
I don't think Jason would like that, and I don't know who would actually get the donor tissue from Jason. Maybe that'll be another sequel coming
But you could conceivably take skin from another person and put
Well, no,
it on.
actually not from another person.
Oh, okay.
The skin would be rejected in the same way that kidney transplants can be rejected unless you take certain types of medicines.
What if he had an identical twin brother?
That may work.
May work, okay.
That sounds like a good plot
I think
for a movie.
Wes Craven has a movie right there, okay. Why is it that all plastic surgeons, by the way, say, you know, I only went into this field to work with accident victims and burn patients. That's the only reason that I started in my plastic surgery practice. That's what they all say, right?
You'd have to ask a plastic surgeon about that. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, let's get back to Motel Hell for a bit. Here comes Ida's speech about global responsibility for the environment and how it relates to cannibalism in our times. Roll it. I guess you need a special kind of fertilizer to grow skin, right?
That's right.
Major collagen, right?
Something like that.
Do you work with collagen a lot?
We do.
That's a big deal in dermatology.
It's a big deal.
You get to meet a lot of incredibly foxy women because they covet your supply of collagen?
If I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Because those injections are expensive. You know, not that you would abuse your status as a man of medicine, I'm sure.
Back to Monstervision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Motel Hell on TNT.
I actually think this is my third favorite cannibalism movie. Because the best one is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? Next is Eating Raoul. And this one I would call a close third. Although I also kind of like that Randy Quaid movie Parents, which we showed here a few weeks back. We got to have Cannibal Night on Monstervision, so make a note of that, somebody, okay? But tonight is Acne Night. We're looking at the effects of meat eating on the complexion, and we're here with Dr. Vale Reese, a film buff you're my kind of dermatologist, because you know this stuff. Like what have we got here?
Well, that's actually a picture from a 50s movie called The Alligator People.
Yeah.
And it looks very much like a severe dry skin condition, which is called ichthyosis.
Ichthyosis.
That's right.
Which sounds like fish. Ichthy.
It's from the Greek, fish skin is basically what it translates to.
So even though it's an alligator, well, the alligator's in the water, too, so it's like aquatic people, right? I bet the monster movies from the 50s are just chock full of skin problems.
You've got a lot of stuff there, that's right.
What is this?
This is The Amazing Colossal Man from the early 50s, and he has amazingly colossal scarring going on. You see a lot of scarring in movies.
So he just got cut, or is that some disease, identifiable disease?
No, that's some type of bad scarring. Could be a radiation, some kind of radiation thing.
And who is this?
That's Vincent Price from House of Wax with bad scarring, too.
So he got burned. Burning is popular in all of these movies.
Yes.
Skin that's been horribly burned. Did you ever see a guy named Alligator Boy who worked the freak shows at state fairs in the Deep South?
I didn't see him myself, but he did have ichthyosis.
Okay, well,
That's
the reason I ask is, see, I saw 4 or 5 different guys billed as Alligator Boy, so I thought it must have been like a fairly common illness, right?
Well, it's a common name.
You could work the carnivals if you had ichthyosis, right?
That's right.
Was there one Alligator Boy who was more famous than all the rest? Because
I think they were just a whole group, working
okay,
ensemble.
and they all lived in Florida in the winter, and they went out on the carnival circuit.
That's right.
Now, how many freak show acts are based on skin conditions? There's probably a few,
A
right?
fair number. Certainly, well, dermatologists handle skin, hair, and nails. So the bearded lady, with the excess hair, and then the people with ichthyosis, and other types of birth defects, limbs and that type of thing,
I see.
often showed up in the circus shows.
Okay. Well, I guess if you look like this guy, you would get even fewer dates than me. But let's go back to the flick. I can never be a doctor, though, because I don't have the stomach for it. You know, it's stage mucus. That's what we deal with here. That's fine. Bloody vomit and the like. But when you see this stuff, it has the potential to actually splash on your shoes.
That's why we wear gowns and glasses and all that. That's right.
Back to Monstervision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Motel Hell on TNT.
All right, that was Dick Curtis as the clueless swinger, doing a great job there. Dermatologist Vale Reese is here with us. Scars, you mentioned before, scars are a big deal in films, aren't they? They reveal all kinds of things about characters.
That's right. I think they're used a lot to identify evil characters, and I think as far as makeup goes, they're pretty easy to design and implement, so they're used a lot.
Yeah, well, here we have Christopher Lee. What is this? What's going on here?
From The Curse of Frankenstein, another one of the Frankenstein versions, and not a very good job suturing there, so need some work.
Well, speaking of evil, there's a character with a scar named Dr. Evil.
That's right.
That Mike Myers plays in Austin Powers' Man of Mystery. Wasn't he based on... He was based on another scarred bad guy.
That's right. He's actually, well, the movie is a spoof of the old James Bond films. And one of those films is You Only Live Twice. And I think we may have a picture of that. And for those familiar with Austin Powers' movie, you can see that Donald Pleasance here with very similar types of scarring, and also alopecia, hair loss, which is also used. Alopecia, which is the medical name for hair loss.
That's bald.
The chrome dome there, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I remember another Bond movie having kind of a scary extra doohickey on one of the characters. You remember The Man with the Golden Gun?
That's right, and actually, if anyone wants to visit my website, there's actually a picture of that. He has an extra nipple, which are pretty common.
Wow. Accessory nipples?
Accessory nipples,
are
that's
common
right. On men and
many
women.
people?
Yes.
An extra nipple.
That's correct.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay, well, speaking of nipples, look for the wet T-shirt scene coming up now in Motel Hell. Our incarcerated viewers like to be alerted to those things. Okay, go. Alopecia. Learned a new word. Sounds like one of those names that African-American women have. That alopecia, she sure knows how to take care of her man.
Back to Monstervision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Motel Hell on TNT.
He's got syphilis of the brain. Just one of the many great one-liners in this movie. Doesn't syphilis have some related skin conditions? Pretty awful, right?
You can get a pretty bad skin rash from syphilis, yeah.
How bad does it get?
Well, the picture earlier of the guy with the fish skin,
yeah,
it can get that bad.
Ooh. All right, we don't want to go any farther than that. Let's talk about something nice, like how about Pamela Anderson Lee and her lovely tattoos? You got any?
Yes.
I had this tattoo that she has.
Yeah, that's that barbed wire tattoo on her arm, which I think she got as part of the promotion of this film, Barbed Wire, which tanked, I think.
She couldn't get a temporary one, so, you know, that tattoo remains as a persistent reminder of that flop.
Oh, well.
Have you ever removed any tattoos?
Yep, laser removal.
Really? That's part of your business, huh?
Keeps me pretty busy, sure.
You ever remove any of these?
I hope I never have to. I hope I never have to.
You know what this is, right?
Oh, of course.
It's
Alien.
on your website.
It is on my website. This is from Alien, and people can get parasites in their skin, scabies, that type of thing, lice. Usually never gets this bad, though.
Okay, let's go back to Motel Hell. Roll it. You know, Farmer Vincent's sister in this movie, his sister Ida, kind of grows on you. If you were like really, really drunk one night and she was the only woman in the bar, no. No, you wouldn't, would you? Forget it. Sometimes I don't know what I'm saying.
Back to Monstervision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Motel Hell on TNT.
Pummeled repeatedly by avenging vegetables. Only in Motel Hell. We know how to pick them, don't we? All right, Dr. Reese, I noticed not one but two John Carpenter movies made your website, Village of the Damned and Escape from L.A., and we love John Carpenter here at Monstervision. And in Village of the Damned, I guess the kids in that movie are albinos.
That's
right?
Well, they're albino-like, and I'll tell you, characters with albinism pop up in movies all the time, and often as sharpshooters and rifle people, which is kind of interesting because most people with albinism actually can't see very well. They have problems with their vision.
Really?
So using them as assassins is just another Hollywood special effect, I think.
Yeah, well, can you tell me something about the disease of albinos, besides the fact that they look like Ted Turner ought to colorize them, you know?
It's a genetic disease. They really don't have the ability to produce pigment in the skin, and they end up in movies a lot. Fortunately, there are some movies coming out now. I think they're depicted a little more realistically.
Really? Because they probably got one of those groups now, like the NAACP, except it would be the National Association for the Advancement of Colorless People.
You said it, I didn't.
Okay, Escape from L.A., what's going on there? I always take the hits, you know, they write me the letters. All right, what's going on in Escape from L.A.? What's going on there?
Yeah, poor Kurt Russell is, he's being sought after by this plastic surgeon who I think is going to use his skin for some experiment. And the interesting thing about the plastic surgeon character is that he actually has done plastic surgery on his own face, which takes, I think, a lot of talent and also a lot of flexibility to be able to do something like that.
Got to have a steady hand for that,
something
right?
like that.
All right. Before we say goodbye, I have one more question. Is this an extra nipple? This thing right here, because I was, you know, ever since you mentioned those, I've been a little uneasy. But anyway, Dr. Reese, thanks for coming by. Check out his website, skinema.com, for cool pictures of hirsutism. You have that, right? Leprosy,
got
scleroderma,
all sorts of that.
melanoma.
Sure. Yep.
And what's the name for broken blood vessels?
Telangiectasia.
Telangiectasia.
That's right.
I knew a girl named Heather who could do that 4 times a night, but only for money. And now for the pig-headed, chainsaw-wielding serial killer played by a retired Hollywood Western star. You will enjoy this. Your mom must be proud of you, right, to have a son who's a doctor and the owner of his own website. And because every once in a while I try to explain to my mom what I do, and she always says, we don't get those kinds of channels here in Little Rock. And I say, it's TNT, Mom, you get it everywhere. And she says, no, we don't get it in Little Rock. You know, I think she's in denial or something.
Back to Monstervision host Professor Joe Bob Briggs and Return of the Living Dead on TNT.
So there you have it, Rory Calhoun's finest moment when he confesses that he was a hypocrite. He used preservatives in his meat, the classic Motel Hell. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and next week is the last week of Joe Bob's summer school, so gas up the car for that trip to Bogalusa, Louisiana to pick up your receipt for 3 credit hours at the Jefferson Davis Vocational Technical Middle School. Our final night is Occult Studies Night, and we'll be showing the always stylish Carrie and the steamy Embrace of the Vampire. Well worth staying up late for. We'll also have a real-life witch as our guest lecturer. Okay, the great James Karen is back tonight in Return of the Living Dead Part 2, even though if I remember correctly, he already got turned into a brain-eating zombie in Part 1. So, you know, it's this kind of stuff that makes you not trust the movies anymore. Like they hired the actors and then they said, whoops, you know what? The story doesn't make sense. But then they decide, oh, well, nobody will notice. Well, we noticed, guys. These 2 guys in the first scene, James Karen and Tom Matthews, they can't get zombified. They already got zombified. It's like casting John Wayne and Liberace in a movie that comes out this summer. Wouldn't be a pretty sight, would it? Anyhow, what happened is that evidently 3 or 4 cans of the secret zombie gas survived the nuclear explosion at the end of Part 1, and now some bozo army truck drivers bounce a can of it into a suburb where some little kids open it up and watch it seep into the cemetery, and then zombies claw their way up through the dirt and start demanding brain salads. The only people who can stop the world from being taken over are a 12-year-old his aerobic leotard sister, and of course a cable TV installer. Their plan? Lure the zombies to an electric power plant by leaving a trail of cow brains, then hose them down, hit the juice, and barbecue them from the gizzards out. Zombie-rama. 16 dead bodies, 27 undead bodies, 143 living dead bodies, head hacking, heads roll, hands roll, fingers roll, zombie aerobics, multiple brain eating, spike through a zombie heart, shotgun to a zombie face, first recorded instance of someone's face being punched out, literally, gratuitous pet eating, screwdriver through the ear, screwdriver to the throat, 3 stars. All right, let's peel some flesh. How about it? Let's watch this. Sometimes you just got to get back to basics and go flesh eater all night long. Tonight's menu includes both smoked and raw. Yummy.